All right, welcome everybody. My name is Pete Oliver Kruger, and I am with the Maryland Forward Party. I'm actually the vice chair for the Maryland Forward Party. Normally, if you've come to these things before, you've seen Bill Stewart. He's one of our volunteer coordinators, and he does a lot of great work with everybody on the all hands meetings. But he is having a wonderful vacation. And so he's been out for a couple of weeks now, and so he was not available for this one. And so Matthew was very happy to jump in and help out and take over for this month. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a format that's a little bit different than we've done before. And it's called a mingle format. I'll let Matt describe a little bit more detail about the background and history of it. It's part of a series or a group that he runs. It's called the Schmerkanish Mingles, started by a guy Schmerkanish on the cable networks, and it's a great format. I've been to quite a few of them because Matthew introduced them to me, and it's a great chance to just be able to hear some other points of views that are not like your own, maybe, and just have some really good conversations with really good people. So we thought we would do this in Bill's absence and give ourselves a chance to meet some new people and have some good conversations. So over to you, Matthew.
Thank you. So normally the entire spirit of the Mingle project is to get people together face to face to do these things, but virtual is the next closest step. So, and you get more outreach and it's easier to coordinate more people. Yeah. But James has actually been physically to one of mine and no bruises or attacks. So I think he survived.
That was great.
The entire spirit is to get people to hear diverse opinions about things and know that even though we might not see eye to eye the things, in fact, we might even have very stark different opinions about it. In the end, we can still see our humanity when we're talking to face each other. And in this format, what I like to do is give everyone a chance to speak their opinion on the topic. And tonight, the topic is going to be on that OBBA, or the One Big Beautiful Bill, and discuss like things that you think should be highlighted, that you might dislike. But in the end, when I come to realize when I read these massive bills, there's always going to be something you like or don't like about it. So you don't need to take it whole cloth and just say hate just because the party, is the party that passed it, or like it because it's the party that passed it. You can cut out different pieces of it and say, oh, well, that's a good idea, etc. So that's the general idea of it. So we'll give you a 15-second warning to help you wrap it up. And we'll just go round robin. And if time dictates, we'll go do a second round, or we'll open up the popcorn depending on how the flow goes. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's see. The first person on was Michelle. So Michelle, if you'd like to start.
Sorry about that. I was moving from outside. It's very hot here too.
No worries.
My thoughts. I have honestly been too afraid to do too much research on it. I feel traumatized by it. I'm a person who lives on SSI. Medicaid is critical for me. So I find it incredibly frightening. I come from a farm and ranch background, so on that score, I also find it frightening. Um, I just, I sort of tuned out, honestly.
You have more time if you like to keep talking, because we don't do crosstalk on this.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know really what more to say other than I don't even know how to approach it. I'm a Green Party member. I grew up as a Republican, a strict Republican. I'm ostracized from my family that is all Trump down in Texas on the farm and the ranch. They're really about to get screwed for it, but they're still strong believers. And they won't talk to me. They won't have anything to do with me. It's a complete family split. In fact, it's a rift so deep that two of my children won't even speak to me. So I don't know how to approach it, and I don't know how to approach people who have such a completely opposed view to myself. It would be nice to hear from other people what your thoughts are. How do you overcome the fear of the initial approach?
All right. I guess you're good. Okay. All right. James, you are the next person on, so we'll hand the mic to you.
Sure. So, I'm James. You can consider myself, I'm a Trump supporter. I do like a lot of what Trump does. Maybe you can call me MAGA, but I am firmly on the right. When I look at the one big beautiful bill, what I see is a symptom of a much, much deeper problem of our kind of structure, which is this this piece of legislation that, according to Google, is something around 1,000 pages long. And in my opinion, anyone who says that they've read this bill and understand everything that's in it, I would call that person a liar. So I say it's almost irrelevant to understand what's really in that bill because it's going to be open to interpretation to read into it whatever you want to read into it. So in my opinion, I think this really highlights a problem that we just have these gigantic pork bills that we push through, and God only knows what's in them. And it's just left to the powers that be to execute their will as they see fit. I personally believe that pieces of legislation should be like no more than 5 or 6 pages long, single topic issues, and should also have expiration dates. I think that eliminates so many problems that we just have here specifically because if I had to take a guess, right, there's probably 500 different topics in this one big beautiful bill. And if we had the opportunity to vote or have our legislature vote on each one of those 500 things independently, I think that would give an enormous amount of trust and respect back into our system. And as much as I like Trump, I think he's batting 600. This to me goes to show that what in the world are we doing here? I have no trust in anything that you were doing. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. I believe Steve was next.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is a massive bill, so it's very difficult to, get our head around it and see what the details, the detailed impacts are going to be. But just on the face of it, when you have people saying, like Murkowski, say, well, I don't like it, I'm going to vote for it, but hopefully the House is going to fix it. Or when you have Hawley to say, well, Jimmy, I would like to go back on a number of those provisions. So right there, that this is actually something that needed to be negotiated and worked much more than tests. I mean, just on the idea of increasing the debt. Okay, now we're going to have a debt to the GP ratio of over 120%. Increasing the debt and reducing, putting, X millions of people in the, without health, any type of health coverage. Okay. And, basically reducing the tax rate more for people who already make more money than anybody else. Okay. It's just a bad idea, just on the face of it. Okay. So I think there are some good things probably in there, I'm sure. I read something about investing of Navy shipbuilding. That's probably a good thing. Some other area of defense probably need to be boosted as well. But on the bottom line is, having I don't know. It's probably total of hundred and some billion dollars going to immigration and border control. Okay, where we're going to actually fund ICE 10 times more than, or maybe 6, 7 times more. I'm not sure. $40 billion for detention centers, and all a
Thumbs
bunch
up.
of money to hire 8,000 new agents. So this is really what they want to do, is to create a police state using the excuse of controlling immigration. So this is actually a horrible bill. Okay, so sorry, excuse. Sorry to James, but this is absolutely horrible.
That's okay. Thank you. All right. Next, I believe, was Jeff.
Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, I don't. I find a lot to dislike about this bill. I think that number one, the size of this has been alluded to before. We're not. This isn't the first time that this has happened. Obviously, there are omnibus spending packages that glom things together, and we have the convenience of voting up or down on an entire package. But this is without precedent. This is really something that is so huge. I think some of the things that have come out in the press about the awareness that legislators have had about all of the components of this and things that they voted for that they admit that they didn't know that they voted for. It's simply too big. There's simply too much in there. I think that I think it's wise that we have certain bills that are limited in scope, so that we understand the full content. Number one, of course, but also there's a need for compromise. There's an awful lot of trading back and forth that needs to get done in certain measures, and there's just so much there that legislators pack in. There's guaranteed to be something that you like very much, and there's guaranteed to be something that is completely non-negotiable, but you'll end up negotiating on it. And I think that there are some things that really can't be compromised upon. Personally, one of those things for me is the size of this, the way that it's going to increase the debt, the tax breaks for the rich. I think that those are things that, according to my theory of
15
finance,
seconds.
it's simply not appropriate. It's intolerable. That and Medicare and Medicaid, and what this is going to do to rural America and how it's going to affect a broad swath of our country, I think it's just too much.
Thank you. And next, I believe, is Deborah.
Oh, hi. I am not a big political person. And to Courtney, I'm sorry that your family is being divided by this, because my family too started to be divided, and there's people on one side of the fence, people on the other, and I am sitting on the fence going, wait a minute, let's just talk, let's understand each other. And no, because you're not going to change and I'm not going to change. And I'm going, okay, thanks for making my mind up, but that's the way people are. It unfortunately has divided families, friends, all across the line. But the bill itself, the increased cost to us, the average citizen, I thought was a political promise from Trump that wasn't going to happen. He was going to tax the higher, richer people. And
No, he didn't say that.
We'll try not to crosstalk here.
thank you. Yeah. So not, and people saying, well, the like Jeff said about people not knowing what was in the bill. I'm sorry, that's no excuse. It's your job to know what's in the bill if you're voting on it. I've heard that a number of times from different people across the states, and I'm thinking, no, you can't use that as an excuse of not knowing. That's what you're there to know and make an informed decision.
15 seconds.
You may have it. I'll step off my soapbox.
You yield
worries.
back your time.
Thank you. And Courtney, you're next.
Let me just make sure I understand because I came in late. I'm just sharing my thoughts on the one big bill. One big beautiful bill. Sorry, I don't want to not name it right. Okay. So I think the first thing is echoing like what a lot of other people said about just how large the bill was. That was very concerning to me. I was most concerned about something that got taken out of the bill, which I was glad to see taken out. It was the 10-year moratorium on the state's rights to like regulate AI. But what was frustrating about that was to see politicians come out and say, oh, we didn't know that that was in there. We didn't know. It was section 2 of the bill. It wasn't very far into it. Sorry, there's a plane. But it was so eye-opening that they just don't have the time, they don't have the energy or the effort to look at it and read it. I would love to see something where they're forced to like explain it to the American people and get like a period of feedback from us where we can call our representatives and tell them what we think of it before they have to vote. But I understand that that's not how our representative system is set up. But I think that like the presentation of it, where it was presented as like, this is going to be so good and like you cannot question it, that was something that made it really difficult for people to speak out against it. And politicians that were speaking out against it, even within like the same party as the president, like they were getting told they're going to get primaried and et cetera. So there was so much there that it was emotionally driven. I think it took away from being able to actually understand, and like news anchors or independent journalists just carrying on about the drama instead of like what's going to actually happen. And now it's almost like it's like this package that they're opening, like, oh, well, look what we've received as the American people. And it's frustrating that that's something that's happening. And I know it's things that happen in other bills too, but because this was so large and because we're in a period of time where we're trying to save money as a government, and, you know, Elon came in and he's very much like, take, 10 regulations out for every one you put in and one issue at a time, whatever. And like, he's not the advisor, he's not the president, but to then see in that same short period, the government just being like, meh, nah, we don't need to do that. Let's just go back to the same stuff that we've always been doing. Actually, let's like
15 seconds.
double the numbers of paper. It's incredibly frustrating for me. So although I may like business wise benefit somewhat from like certain things staying, it's awful, the rest of it. You can have my 1 second.
Thank you. Peter or Pete.
All right. Yeah, a lot of you have already captured a lot of my sort of initial thoughts or sentiments on it. I mean, we've gotten to this place, and everything that we do is this big packages of bills and all of these things mixed in. And we've had a lot of these like, oh my God, it's so important. We have to put this through. We have to get this rushed through. And it really is just setting up this pretext of trust us. And I think one of the issues for me is this, no, I don't have a trust anymore. The trust is all gone. I'd rather slow this down. I'd rather go through and, have it take a little while and go back and forth. I'd rather
Can you
see.
make me a hot tea?
Sorry, hold off on the
Thank you.
comments there. You'll be up next. So I'd rather have like the debates back and forth. I'd rather see some kind of deviations. Like another thing for me is just like when the vote comes down and it's just straight down the party line and people talk about things and they, They talk about, oh, well, I'm going to be against this. They go to the town halls and they push back about it. But when the vote comes in, then they vote for it. And they're trying to play it both ways. They're trying to, say, oh, well, I wasn't for this in the town hall and I wasn't, in this area. But then when it comes down to it, they won't. And I think it's an impossible situation. I like to look at what problems are we trying to solve, and also what problems should we not make worse when solving other problems. And the format of this bill makes that impossible. Like, there's probably, how many pages was it? A different problem for every single page, that are all balanced against each other and interacting with each other and making other problems worse. And then it goes back a little bit to what James
15
was saying
seconds.
about, having like the small bills. Like, it'd be better to solve, smaller collections of problems. So that's my biggest objection.
Cool. Thank you. All right, I'll give a one piece and then we can circulate again.
We do
And-
have, I don't know who it is, but whoever's on iPad 87.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Okay, iPad 87, you're welcome to speak.
If it's like mine was a new computer. That's why I had user up. So I had to set it up real quick while you all were talking.
Okay, I'll take my time. If iPad 87 figures it out, I'll let him speak. So my ideas are almost exactly what almost everyone here has said tonight. It's huge. And it's really, really hard for anyone really to get their head around anything. Even if you're a congressperson trying to, who has full access to all this, it's really hard to wrap your mind over everything. So I absolutely agree with every sentiment of we need to break this down. It would be just so much better for the people. Now, my background is I grew up being a Republican, a classic conservative, and I bought into the whole narrative. Spending is really important to control and really important to what we spend it on. And through the years, I've just noticed that the Republican Party has lost that way. So I then eventually switched over to being a Democrat when Obama was president. And I'll be honest, I loved what he said. But I also come with plenty of criticisms on Obama, because on the ACA, I do not forget, that was a massive bill too. And a lot of people didn't know what was in it either. So I can't come down and rain down on one party saying that these tactics were horrible, because both parties use it and it's really frustrating. And in the end, we get hurt. And I think this is a great thing for all of us to coalesce around when we think about these things, because I think we all see that we're all going to get hurt in some way when they try to pass these massive things. And then, as Steve mentioned, Lisa Murkowski regretted her vote because she got bribed on things that her state is now being affected on, that her state doesn't have to get affected by. And that's really frustrating. It's like, well, okay, so you didn't like it, but now you're safe from it, so you voted for it. And that's just frustrating to me. All right. I think we did so well. Let's do one more round, then we'll open up the popcorn. So back to you, Michelle.
So many of you said things that really made me think. I got caught a little off balance being the first person. Yes, the
Right.
size of it is overwhelming. Who actually knows what's hidden in it? I don't think anybody knows what's actually hidden deep in the dark recesses of it. I have seen corporate lobbyists and special interests get so much passed through in secret that it really, really scares me. And like I said before, I grew up in a very Republican household. Then like Matthew said, I went to Obama, was thrilled with Obama, then was disappointed. And I actually see both parties, neither one of them are honoring what they say. Neither one of them are doing what is in the best interest of the public. And as long as we have these big, huge bills, how's the public even going to know what they're doing, if it's in our best interest or not? Exactly what y'all were saying before, we need to limit these bills. Maybe 3 topics at most to be addressed in a single bill. I think that's plenty enough. And as far as parties fighting each other, it's just, it seems like tit for tat, and we all do the same thing, and we're all afraid. It's like each side won't criticize itself, but we all commit the same sins. We really do. We just cover them up in different ways. And I don't know how to dismantle this bill. I don't know how to tackle it. I don't know how to take it on. My suggestion would be that we bit by bit try to find the things that are harmful and dismantle it that way. But I don't know if that's possible. The way legislation is written and passed, there are so many different ways that it can happen. It's hard to understand how you go about dismantling something. It's different if it's done by executive order. And the fact that you have a majority in all 3 branches, that's also a problem. We need to find a way around that, so that we have to learn to compromise with each other.
50
When
seconds.
you have one party in control, there's no compromise. So, and that's pretty much all I had to say.
Thank you. Okay, James, you're back up.
All right, so a few things. While I have no problem inherently with like a two-party system, it seems like what has spawned, or at least what has been made very evident over the past like 10, 15, 20 years, is this real us versus them mentality. You're either with us or you're with them. And I think Pete put it perfectly when, there's a million things in this bill, but oh, what a shock. Everything was right down party line. Well, to me, that's like no one is deciding on what they're going to do based on principles. It's all on my team versus their team. It's team politics. Um, and I don't necessarily know how to break that, but one of the problems that I've seen stemming, Michelle, going back to what you were talking about people dividing each other, as someone who is on the right, and while I haven't had any issues with my family, I have lost friends from high school, and I've been called a fascist and a Nazi and Hitler and a white supremacist and all that. And the people that I've been able to maintain a relationship with are those people who can separate the ideas from the person. I have a lot of very liberal and progressive friends who can't seem to separate the person from the ideology, and that's where the incompatibility comes from. So that is how I'm able to maintain relationships, and I don't know if that is of help to you, but that's just my response because I know you wanted to say that. Um, but beyond that, I do also agree that the Republican Party has traditionally been the lower, less government party. I was so thrilled when Trump totally ex-nayed the Department of Education. I thought that was so great. There's only something like 15, 16 departments of the federal government, one down, 15 more to go. That's awesome. And God only knows what's in this one big beautiful bill. Are we just going to make a new department to do whatever's in here? That's not small government. That's big government. That's not
15
what I want.
seconds.
So, all right. So that's me again.
Thank you. Steve was next.
Yeah, so just one quick thing on the Department of Education there, if I can. The Department of Education is basically main mission is to help people getting, help with their education. And there are a lot of small communities where the school system have a very hard time funding program attracting teachers of reasonable quality and depend on federal funding to be able to do that. Okay, so there's really not much in terms of policy going into the Department of Education other than distributing funds of people need to get some support. Okay, but on the broader question, okay. So I didn't hear anybody really defending that bill. Okay, I think some people think that there are some good things in it. I'm sure there are. So it's not a question of about that. But the other thing is that, really it's a situation where this bill was very unpopular, okay, with the public and with Congress. Congress completely abdicated their role. Okay, they basically gave to Trump's pressure. The Republican representative gave to Trump's pressure in terms of what was going to be in the bill and the timing for it and so forth. So to say that this is, a situation where you have two parties, we don't have two parties. We don't have any political system that's actually functioning. We have a Congress that's completely AWOL. Okay, we have Republicans who are basically doing Trump's bidding, and we know the tendency of Trump's. There's definitely wanting to
15 seconds.
be an autocrat with his buddies of Steve Miller, and that's why there is so much money in the immigration system. 150 billions. I have the number in front of me. Okay, 40 billions for detention centers. So there's actually absolutely horrible bill. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff is next.
So just to follow up for a moment, I think that we've all mentioned the size of this bill, and typically in legislation, there's when there are differences between the Senate and the House version, they get taken care of in committee after the fact. This is one of the cases where there's a lot here to reconcile, and some of the things that have gone on recently with respect to rescission and take a clawback of funding for things like public radio and things. I'm a public radio and public TV fan, but that's my own particular take. The concern that I have goes much deeper than that. That this is now funding that has been allocated by Congress that has the power of the purse, and this rescission is now basically going back on that agreement to spend those funds. So my concern is that with something like the one big beautiful bill, that whatever's agreed to in committee to kind of reconcile this and come up with and move this forward, those expectations, I just feel like what's been done now with rescission is breaking yet another norm, that this is how government operates. This is what we can expect. And who's to say now that the things that we've been told to expect, well, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, that's going to actually happen. And if it actually happens, that it's not going to be gone back on. I'm just concerned about the breaking of norms that we see in this administration so far. I think it's leading to a breakdown of what we can expect from our government. And I think it's also setting us up for administrations yet to come.
8 seconds.
This breaking of norms is something that now, when the Democrats get power, perhaps we can expect the same. Is this now the level of back and forth and infighting that we can expect in the future? That's pretty dismal.
Right. Thank you. And Deborah's next.
The breaking of norms, I hope that's not our future. It has been a little disconcerting to me as to how many norms have been broken and how they have been allowed to be broken. Even the lies, the administration promises one thing, and then a day later it's, oh, I didn't say that. And, oh, well, here's a video. it's a little disheartening as to, are we going to survive 3 years, 5 months, how many days? I'm doing a countdown. I'm hoping we'll live through it. As far as how do we dismantle a bill, I think that's sort of like trying to get the horse back in the barn after it's been running around. It's probably not going to happen, but I do like Michelle's idea of limiting the size of these bills. If they're so overwhelming, so much can be hidden in them, let's make them smaller and more transparent. It seems like a simple solution. I don't know if that is even possible, because that's the purpose of big bills, to sneak stuff in. My opinion.
Are you good? Okay, thank you, Deborah. And next is Courtney.
Let me get my thoughts together. So I think listening to you all talk about like norms and system breakdown, one of the things that I think about a good bit is how this isn't necessarily just a Trump administration issue. There might be a lot of spotlight on that right now because of what's happening and the things that are going on, but it's truly the way that our system is set up that allows all of this to happen, that there is nothing that anyone can truly do based on who has the majority, et cetera. I think it has a lot to do with the two-party system and this idea that it's either us or them, and how our brains are wired to like be in an in-group or an out-group. And so then it creates this polarization. It's fed by algorithms and social media, and our whole government has functioned off that for 15 years. Like, this isn't something that is brand new, but it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But my concern is that if we spend so much time focused on just Trump and Trump administration, which I understand why it feels and it is really important right now, then we're going to miss the opportunity to highlight some of these things, like the fact that there's been plenty of administrations that have come and gone of both parties that haven't done anything to create some kind of like codified law that says we pass one bill, one topic, one at a time. And so I think that's something that, unfortunately, it took 1,000 pages. I think it was almost 900 pages once it passed, bill, to highlight that. But I do think that it's something that we all need to focus on, instead of like, oh, we'll fix it at midterms. Like, will we? Who's we? Like, who are we fixing it for? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And also, like, you all had the chance to fix it and you didn't. You just let it pass through. And it, for me, as like a personal, like my personal observation, I'm just sick of hearing everybody blame it on the other side. Like, I'm just so sick of hearing about like, oh, if the Republicans didn't pass it through, like, okay, well, they did, but like, maybe you could like name the people, or like name what states, who's collaborating, who's refusing to compromise, like call them out. But instead they just like lump everyone into one or the other. And I think like change isn't going to happen if we keep having just that. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Do we try to check in on the iPad user?
Sure. Let me do a request to unmute. So again, we don't know who you are, but if you come across as iPad 87, but you were trying to talk earlier, and so we wanted to give you a chance to talk if you wanted to. There should be a prompt on your window if you see it that asks you to unmute.
I don't know why I keep putting my ear to my phone. I have my earbuds in. Okay, Pete, you're up.
All right. There we go. Yeah, God. I mean, there's so many other different ways and like, better ways to tackle a bunch of these things. James, you reminded me of something that I've always wanted to do. It'd be like part of my like dream, government structure, which is that anybody who puts a bill in, it also has like a set of metrics with it, where they have to kind of say, this is what we want to accomplish. And if the metrics don't happen, automatically sunset the bill and take it back out. Also things change with time, and if things, a bill goes into effect, and then for the rest of for the rest of our natural born lives until somebody puts in another piece of legislation, that bill continues to go into effect. Whether or not it's still relevant or not, and if it stops having the effect of what's intended, because it really comes back down to, for me, to trust, and more importantly, the lack of trust. I just don't trust anybody there to give me the straight answer of what they're actually trying to do. There's so many things that are put out there and then packaged together this and put together with that, and then we say this and we give it these names, that make it sound like we're going to do a thing, but when it actually comes around to the impact of it and looking how it affects us as Americans, it doesn't match up. And nobody ever pays a consequence for putting something into law. We pretend like they did it accidentally. They really wanted to do this, and some people are flat out designing laws that they know is not going to do what they say it's going to do, and our system allows them to get away with it. If there's not, a bunch of other people on the other side, or enough people to get 51% or 50.1% to the vote, there's zero things we can do about it. And that whole process, I think, is at the core of our struggles.
Thank you. So one thing that I've been noticing, just watching everybody on this, watching everyone speak, I know we have some diversity tonight, but I see a heck of a lot of head nodding. Yes. So I think there's some ways we're hearing each other, even though we might not necessarily agree with everything. I can understand the more libertarian view of wanting to downsize government. And to be honest, most Americans don't know specifically what each of these departments do. So I guess in the end, you don't hear specifically too much outrage from the public, because honestly, a lot of people don't know what these departments really do. And in the end, when you hear it's like, well, then you cut it out and you save money. But my whole thought process in that is, we don't really save money. It goes somewhere else to another project that's hidden in another bill, and the cycle starts over. So when I hear anything about money savings or that, I'm really not heartened. And that's just maybe my pessimism towards it. But I know I could sit here and talk about specific things in the bill, like the Trump baby bond, which wasn't really his idea, it was something else. But then when you drill down to it, like, there's so many caveats to it, it's just not a benefit. But he's giving away $1,000 per family. That's really not going to do anything in that situation. The no tax on tips, you drill down to it, it's really not a benefit. There's so many stipulations in it. It's just not, in the end, going to accomplish what would have been a great idea if they just said that's what it's going to be. And so overall, when I see all these big bills, I just hold a lot of pessimism in general. Doesn't matter who it is, what party it is. And now we can open it up for popcorning. So that's still going to be one person speaking at a time. You'll see at your options, there should be a react button, and you can raise your hand if you would like to speak. Feel free to speak on anything that we spoke about, or if you want to talk about something else that we haven't covered. Okay, first person up is Jeff.
And if you can't find the raise hand feature, you can just do it physically. I'll try to pay attention to it and see. For some people, there's a button. For some people, it's under the React button. So Zoom moved it, and it's all over the place. So I don't know where your button is.
Very quickly, I wanted to respond to a couple of things that were mentioned before about difficulties with family and getting ostracized and some of that. My response to that personally is a lot like I think a lot of the reasons why some of us are here with the Forward Party at all. My party doesn't represent me. I used to be a Republican. I broke with them a while back because there were just some things that I didn't agree with. As a Democrat, honestly, this year for election, I held my nose and I pulled the lever. I I don't identify 100% with the things that my current party has to say. It's just too homogeneous. It's there's just too many topics there, some of which perhaps I agree with at the moment, but others that I don't. This has been an entree for me with some of my family members who don't think the same way. I really tried very hard to try to find common ground. I think that's a common theme that we find whenever it comes to finding a way to talk to somebody whose ideas are kind of different than our own. I've had to do that with relatives. Somebody tries to, let's say, pigeonhole me as a typical Democrat, but I try to make the effort to go down some topics one by one, and let's talk about some things. Let's run through some topics that where maybe we do agree. Um, and we start from there. We'll discuss some things about a particular topic that we find common ground on. I know that between me and my stepdad, uh, um, uh, I think that was an important starting point for the two of us. And we were discussing things about Medicare, Medicaid that I think were important to him as a retiree. I think that I felt the same as him.
Few seconds.
We've both been small business owners, and we found common ground there in a set of policies. I think that's a very important starting point. Don't let somebody pigeonhole you as a big block this and they're a big block that. See if you can find that overlap.
Thank you. I don't know who raised their hand first between Steve and Michelle.
I have it on my list that Michelle was first and Steve short after.
Okay.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for that advice, and I really do appreciate it. My point is actually quite different, and it involves how both parties are approaching things. We look at this bill and we talk about tax dollars. I don't know how many of us are familiar with MMT, modern monetary theory, but that is something that I am very involved with. I've become personal friends with Warren Mosler, who is the godfather of that. And what bothers me about this bill is we start talking about what our tax dollars are going to pay for. What we don't understand is that on the federal level, our tax dollars aren't paying for anything. We create new money every time something is done. Our tax dollars are there to fight inflation primarily. That's one of the main reasons that we have it, and to require that we use our United States dollar currency as the fiat currency that it is. We're not going to run out of money. What we will run out of first is natural resources. Secondarily, the thing that's going to kill us is going to be inflation. So we need to watch for what causes inflation. And interest rates are a way to control inflation. And what I worry about with this big, beautiful bill is it has attached so many different things that affect taxation and talk about taxation, but don't require a way to fund it. And when I say, people say, how are you going to fund Medicaid? Well, why don't they say, how are you going to fund the next bomb you're going to send to drop on Palestine? They don't talk about how the military is going to be funded, but they talk about how the social network's going to be funded. We need to distinguish between the fact that the federal government economy works very differently from the state and the individual economics. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Yes, first, thanks to Matt and Pete for setting up this conversation, and thanks to everybody on the call who was willing to speak. Um, listening to you all, I see that we agree that the system that is in place is not working. Okay, so we all have ideas of how it should work, and I'm not. It's pretty. It's not surprising, given that we all support the effort of the Forward Party, that we want to have a different system in place. Okay, but my concern is that I think at the moment, okay, we're basically whistling in the wind. Okay, it's very, we all want, I think, a democracy that works, a system, democratic system that works better, that is more in tune to what the people want and what the interests of the nations are. The problem is that we are really in a situation where, we are not going to have a forward party. We're not going to have any green party. We're just not going to have a democracy. Okay. We're going to have basically a system where people gerrymander their district, okay, like they're trying to do in Texas to maintain majority, or they're going to cut funding for cybersecurity to protect the election so that the election results can be manipulated, okay, which is also what is happening, or they're going to put, they're going to make people shit scared of raising their voice or doing anything in contradiction with what the leader of the the autocrat in service
seconds.
wants to have, okay, which is already what's happening. Okay, people don't basically are doing what the chief leader wants to do. So we're in a situation where it's very nice to think about how we can make a democracy work better. Unfortunately, we're really running the risk of not having one at all.
Thank you. I think, Pete, you're next.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, to get anything done, it's going to require coalitions to get together and to vote on things. We may not agree on all the things as we get started on things, and we don't have to. I think what's really more important is listening to each other and understanding and hitting certain points. We had a conversation a little while back, and somebody was bringing up different points or different things that they had heard. And I think we also have different sources. And so this person was saying, like, this thing is happening. I won't go into detail about it. But basically they listed something off that to me sounded like false. But what was important as sort of a change that I kind of tried to do is to sort of meet him where that was at and say, like, I understand, like, if that is happening, I also am with you, and I don't want to see that happen. Like, I want to bring that to a stop. I want that to not happen. And it's one of those patterns that I see is, like, if we disagree on the facts, we immediately jump in and say, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And now we're in a battle again. And it makes it really hard to build coalitions. So for me, I like to look at the problems and say, all right, let's look at that problem. The problem that you're saying, I'm with you on the problem. I might differ with you on the facts, and I'd love to get some more information from you. As if you've got some evidence one way or another, that would give me some information. Maybe I need to change my perspective on how I'm looking at things. But I think being able to get back to that more of respect for each other, to be able to have conversations, to not put people in the boxes, to not jump in immediately with "you're wrong," can go actually a long way. Because
15 seconds.
we got to find some way to come together to build a new coalition to change the system, because that's the only way the system's going to get changed.
Thank you. I thought James had his hand up, but I don't see anyone. You changed your mind? Okay. Courtney, you're next.
So I feel like I'm echoing myself here, but listening to all of you speak, like there's a pattern that I keep seeing that like we're talking about systems issues, things like gerrymandering. Maryland's one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. And I think the reason that it's easy to not focus on that for a lot of maybe louder voices in Maryland is because they are the more liberal voices. They're the ones who are okay with us being a blue state. And for me, just so you know, kind of where I am politically, like I've never really fit right into a box. And the only reason I'm registered as any party is so I can vote in the primaries. And I have absolutely no shame in just jumping parties to do a vote in whatever primary I'm most interested in. So I don't fit. I don't like it. I think like mostly my views, if I didn't believe in like taking care of people socially and making sure people were like safe and healthy, I would be more libertarian, like get the government out of my business. But there's big pieces of what we need there within government too. And so it's a tough balance. But anyways, like there's these things that we don't talk about until they're no longer working for us, but we tend to only define us by like these colors of red or blue, and like living is nuanced and being a society is nuanced. But we live in these little silos where like even within our families, we can't have discussions or engage with people. And I have a family member who literally believes that we live in a petri dish. And like I wouldn't stop seeing them because of that. Like I'm like, that's really wild. I'm sorry if any of you have that belief. I don't mean to insult you, but like that is really wild. And like you're teaching your children that, that's even more wild. But like, who am I to be like, well, we don't want to talk to you ever again? You know, and so I think we do that so often because we can easily block people online. We can easily mute them. We can get them out of our like space that we're paying attention to. And then we can just focus on whatever isn't working for us, but we don't know who us is. So with coalitions or things like that, my concern is that like there's no incentivizing a coalition. Like we are not incentivized in any part of our life besides wanting to take care of even people we don't like. To build coalitions, we're incentivized to like be in our little isolated world. And so
Second.
I wonder what that would look like to build. I do believe something like that is necessary, but I go back and forth because like tech stuff I think could change everything, but my time isn't long enough for that. I'll just leave it.
Thank you. James, now you're up.
Yes, I wish we had more time because we're already at time. But the last thing that I just wanted to mention was even though I really like Trump, I like a lot of the things that he's doing. I would also describe myself as more of a libertarian. I believe that the government is too big, it holds too much power. And so any opportunity we have to reduce the size of government is kind of the principled stance that I take. And this comes in like many facets. And for a lot of people who I would consider to be on the left, this is like again like universal healthcare. I am against the idea of universal healthcare because I do not want Trump to be responsible for my healthcare. And I can say that kind of like same thing for a lot of different aspects that, like Courtney said, that's it just involved in our lives. Like I don't want Trump to be involved in so many aspects of my life even though I like them, like please go away, let me live my life. So this one big beautiful bill is an affront to that. It is most likely going to be an enlargement of government, and as much as possible, I want the government to shrink because I think it is too big. So I did want to give a last thank you to everybody on here. I love talking with everybody, and I really hope that we get to have more opportunities like this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I guess in a final word, because we are hitting 8 o'clock, yes, I have to echo the sentiment. Thank you, everyone. And I think we kept pretty civil here with different, hearing each different voices, different perspectives. And that's the entire spirit of it. And I hope that any of you could make physically one of my mingles and we could do this in person. And I still promise it'll still just be as civil. And thank you for joining. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Enjoyed meeting you.
Absolutely. Same to you.
Been
Thank
so
you.
great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.